So yeah, I was Director of Policy at the REA and then moved to Seahorse Environmental Communications about 4 months ago. It is a lobbying firm, a public affairs firm, and we specialise especially in renewables, energy and environment, which I've done for the last 15 years. And I love politics. It is my love, and as well as energy, which is now my specialism. My first election, I stayed up all night. Well, for most people of my age-ish, 97 was that key moment, whatever we remember it. Far too young. My one was the 2001 election, where only 6 seats, I think, changed hands. And I stayed up until 5 o'clock. That's how much I love politics. I've been a candidate 5 times. I have won 20% of those, which is a reasonable outcome. Still better than Nigel Farage. I've been an agent in a parliamentary election. I've been a candidate in a parliamentary election. I love politics. I love elections. I watched American elections. When I found out there's going to be the 4th general election in 10 years here, even I thought, so if they've even lost me as an interested party, I can't imagine what more sane, normal people feel like. So yes, that's Seahorse. I've put my 2 plugs. Actually, I'm so used to plugging the RE anyway. If you are a member of a SME who works in the renewable clean space, you should obviously become a member of the REA. And if you need any public affairs help or lobbying, then obviously you should hire Seahorse. Right, I've justified my time here, and now I can give everything to you with my knowledge and expertise. So, next slide. Next slide. Right, so just as a bare bones, what actually happens in the general election since the Fixed Term Parliament Act. As of midnight tonight, Parliament dissolves. This time it was reasonably legal and there was no sort of issues between. Importantly, for people who are still trying to do things, and I think as Richard has found out, trying to organise this event, a fantastic conference by the way, which I think is very much needed, that you go into PER, which is that civil servants theoretically and well legally should not be involved in anything that could alter the general election. So you will see that there will be no more announcements. Ministers are not supposed to be using their civil servants for any electoral advantage for the next 25 days, and that will stay in, and all consultations, all live consultations, anything coming out of government dies with this government and this parliament. That's obviously the same thing for any bills that are going through as well. So the Environment Bill got to its 2nd reading, that's dead. Fisheries Bill is now dead, everything's dead. And the new parliament can take them up if it so chooses. So that's sort of where we are. 25 working days, 12th of December. Hurrah. Has anybody ever gone out campaigning in December before? Have you ever gone out? Yeah, it's really miserable, and that's in London. And I mean, Hull is at least 20 degrees colder than London. So that's going to be fun for any hardened campaigner. Going through where the manifestos are, so hopefully we'll see the manifestos this weekend. It is worth pointing out the different ways that, I'm just going to focus on Tories and Labour for now, how the 2 manifesto processes are written. Tories, very centralised, very much based around the leader and the leadership and management at that time. Depending how strong a lead you are, depends on how much you can get through. It's much more of a real sort of pure politique lesson, as we saw last time round, where Theresa May was there. They had 2 manifesto writers, John Gummer, who was an MP, and then you had Nick Timothy, who was this sort of godlike figure within Number 10, and Fiona Hill, who was equally godlike, and they wrote the manifesto. They thought, with a 25% or 25-point lead, that let's have a detailed manifesto and try and deal with some of the big issues, give ourselves that mandate to change, as well as obviously trying to change Brexit. This is one of my big lessons from this in my, since 2001, 18 years, 19 years of watching elections. The election you think you're going to have is never the election that you have. And politicians always go in thinking they're going to fight the last election, and journalists think that they're going to predict what this election is going to be about. I'm assuming most people think this election is going to be about Brexit, and it might be. And certainly it's going to be the dominant thing. But if you think through every single election, the key issue in each election is almost certainly not what the big election issue was thought to be at the start. So 2001, my original one, you'd have thought that would be about, Save the Pound was William Hague. So does anybody remember anything about the 2001 general election? Anybody? I think it involved a local MP and a Welshman with a mullet. But that obviously dominated that. That was 2001, was it? Was that 2005? I'm looking at you, Richard.
Keep Pound was 2000.
Keep Pound was 2001. When did Prescott punch someone? That was 2005, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. 2010, again, you assume 2010 would be about the global economy collapsing. It wasn't. It was about a racist bigot, again, sort of in the north, and Gordon Brown's sort of prime ministerialship sort of melting within a day. 2015 was about vacant signage. So these elections are never quite about what you think they're going to be about. And I suppose as a communications professional, you've got to look at what opportunities you can do. Can you either manufacture them, or can you at least make sure that your clients or yourselves are ready to try and promote that issue if you get your day in the sun? Anyway, that's sort of a bit of a detour. Tory manifesto will be written by, I think for this one, for the energy section, Rachel Wolfe is very much involved in that. You'll have seen her last week if you're an addict of Guido Fawkes, the website, which you should be. She was nominally, and I don't actually believe it, a quadrilla fracking lobbyist. Huge outcry, Tory manifesto being written by a fracking lobbyist, which is great stuff. And then 2 days later, Tories have put a temporary ban on fracking. So it just shows actually that us lobbyists may not be worth the money we get paid. On this, the Labour manifesto process could not be any more different. It is Byzantine, it is complicated, and it involves numerous people. Obviously, we've seen that party conference in Labour is sovereign, but it's not the NEC is sovereign, but for this, anything past at party conference then gets worked out by the National Policy Forum. Those are also elected, that's regional. In a snap election, which is what we've had in the last 2 times, all of that is condensed very quickly, and there are lots of side meetings, and you go up to a Clause 5 meeting. Clause 5 being one of the clauses in the Labour Party, determining manifesto writing. Jeremy Corbyn will chair that meeting in the next 2 to 3 days. That's where you have all members of the NEC, including union members. This is a key point. The 2017 manifesto was seen as a huge success, but it was also a cluster of a process, and nobody thought we were going to win. And everybody in the moderate side of the Labour Party thought, right, let's Jeremy and his team can own this. If they want to keep on putting all this nuttery stuff in, good, they can completely own the process. We're going to do everything, they can have whatever they want. And the unions walked in, and they drove stuff in, and they put stuff in, and they tagged stuff in. It was a bit of a shopping list of a manifesto. The problem with that was it actually turned out to be quite popular. They didn't win the election, as some shadow ministers have to be reminded, but it was quite a popular manifesto. This manifesto will build on that. But the important thing to think about here is that unions have a huge sway within this process. So if you're thinking that the process, the Tory manifesto, is going to be, there is that old thinking that the Tories are anti-renewables and Labour are very pro. Actually, this time around, we are expecting very high level, with a huge amount of detail from the Tory manifesto, but it will be positive. In Labour, on the other hand, you still have some unions who still struggle with that just transition, what's going to happen to jobs, that are dragging the whole process down, especially GMB, which is why you will still see things there which perhaps are not quite as supportive of renewables and as energy, or certainly future energy sources as you may think. A huge influence. Anyway, that's the Clause 5 meeting. They usually go on for about 12 hours. There's a huge fight, and at the end of it comes out a manifesto. Last time around it was leaked. That's probably the best thing that's ever happened to a Labour manifesto. If you actually read it, because it was news. Things to focus on there, though, the Green New Deal, which was policy that was passed at the conference. This is one of those things where the leadership doesn't really want it, but part of the conference voted for it. That's committing, in best possible terms, to be net zero by 2030. Anybody in the room think that's practical? Probably isn't, but it's a good, it's certainly a good ambition. If you want to look at a more practical document, Labour released 30 for 2030 policy suggestions coming up. That was released last weekend. Group of experts advising Labour Party, that is a very solid document. So if people want to see where some of the Labour thinking is within energy, that's the document to look at, 30 under 30. Next brief. Climate elections, I think we touched on it briefly. What are the chances of us having those few days where the media cycle is involved in climate? Probably quite high. And the last year we've seen Extinction Rebellion, and we've seen the Greta effect come about. It has certainly risen up the public's ladder of things that they care about. Whether that dies down when it actually comes to knocking on doors and doorstep politics, we don't know, but we start out the election with it being hugely popular and very much one of the top 5 issues that people are going to be talking about. The Greta effect, Extinction Rebellion, everybody from London actually. Okay, it's been a real pain in the ass, but it's very good, and the school strikes on Friday. It has been a really visible thing down in London and around Parliament, and it has had an impact. And I think, as Mark touched on here, the commitment in a Conservative Party commitment to net zero is a hugely important thing. It updates the 2008 Climate Change Act, where only 5 MPs voted against it. It is that renewal, and it is now very hard for Parliament to row back from those net zero commitments. It has also meant that we are beginning to see a bit of a competition within the parties about who is the greenest. And that is a good thing in and of itself. However, how the two parties go about it has never been more opposed. So we had a bit of a consensus around 2005 to 2012. Ed Miliband blew up that energy consensus with the energy price cap, then we saw the bonfire of the policies, we diverged. But we are now seeing two very different ideological approaches on how we're going to decarbonise. One is based on markets, and one is based on state. I don't want to say interference, I've completely forgotten what the politically correct word would be. But certainly state intervention, that's the word I was looking for. You would never think I'm a Labour member of 25 years. So we can go in, I'm sure some of the questions around, we can go into what some of the individual policies are around. But I think the key thing here is that nationalisation, which previously was just going to be about the grids, but now we're beginning to see that actually the big six and the retail markets may be nationalised. A lot of people were thinking, and there are two schools of thought within the Labour Party on this. There are some policymakers and MPs that think, fine, we'll say it, but it will be a second term priority, meaning we'll kick it into the long grass and we never actually have to deliver on it. John McDonnell, on the other hand, very much insistent that nationalising of water, nationalising of the grid is a day one priority. That's going to be, if Labour win, a very big split within the party straight away. And I'm sure we can probably talk about that later on. Lib Dems, I haven't got time enough to talk about Lib Dems. That's sort of the problem with being a Lib Dem, isn't it? Right, and the next one. Also, it's not prepared yet, so election rules haven't come in. I don't have to give equal time to all parties. Right, COP26. This is actually genuinely exciting. So we are hosting the Conference of All Parties on the next year in Glasgow. It's a really important thing. The government, whichever shade it is going to have to show domestically that they are leading the way. It's not one of those we can lecture other governments, get all over to your gaff and sort of not having done anything yourself to show for it. It's something that the government, UK government, is going to have to do more on in the next 9 months. At the moment, Claire Perry O'Neill is the president for it. First off, it's just a cool job. So she was Energy Minister, I'm sure some of you have met with her. She's a very good candidate for this role, and especially for businesses. She is really wanting to use the next 12 months as an opportunity for businesses to get involved in COP. If you've got any announcements, liaise with her team, and they will try and big them up and boost them. They really want to show that things are happening, as well as in her own words. Most COPs have been about words, they've been about targets, and this one, she is determined to try and make it about actual actions. So, national government plans, as well as physical things that governments are going to do. And for UK visitors, this is a huge opportunity for you to demonstrate leadership, as well as the fact that there is going to be a lot of focus on it, a media focus and parliamentary focus. So it's a unique opportunity to try and boost whatever you're trying to boost within. I'm assuming quite a lot of business people in the room. Whatever you're trying to boost, it is a good year for you to go ahead with this. And I think that's probably my last slide. Excellent, thank you.